Hello and welcome. You're watching Best of the Bets. My name's Christina Nicolaides. I have our editor and football expert Sam Dymond with me from Best of the Bets, and our bookie extraordinaire from HeavenBet. It is Gareth Walker. And in this show, we're kind of doing something different. Hopefully first of many. We're actually looking at the Champions League. We are. We're through. We've had the group stage. Now it's time for the knockout action. And we're starting with a promotion from
Yes,
you.
we are indeed, yes. If you place a bet on the outright with HeavenBet and Barcelona win the Champions League in May, then your losing outright bet on anyone else will be refunded. We're calling the promotion Barca Beauty. And if we look at the outright prices, we can see what a good offer it is, because Barcelona head the betting at 3. We've got Real Madrid at 5, Bayern Munich 7, Borussia Dortmund at 8, then Juventus 11, Manchester United 15. And then looking a bit lower down, PSG at 21, Shakhtar 34, Arsenal at 41, and then everyone else as well.
OK, and we're going to start looking at Celtic versus Juventus. So we've got the top of the SPL meets top of Serie A.
Yes, and the first leg prices here, Celtic are 4.8, Juventus are 1.8, and the draw is 3.6. Should just explain, we're using decimal prices here, so 4.8. If you want to turn that into a fraction, which perhaps some of the viewers will be more familiar with, if you take 1 off that, so 4.8 for you for Celtic, but if you take 1 off that, that's 3.8 to 1 in effect. The decimal price shows you your actual return for a £1 bet on something. So if you put £1 on Celtic and they win, you get £4.80 back.
I'm not sure if I will be putting £1 on Celtic though.
Or even after their home record.
It is an astonishing home record they have in Europe, although I think that's sort of dampened slightly in more recent years. But incredible achievements from them this season on the European scene. Not only they won in Moscow, it was the first away win in Europe for a long time. They've qualified from the group to make it through to the knockout stages, and of course they topped it all by beating Barcelona at Parkhead, which was a phenomenal night of football. Still plenty for them to prove, but I think they have been looking forward to this game. Juventus, top of Serie A yet again, but not as dominant as they were last season, because they do now have that inclusion of European football. They didn't have it last year, and it showed. They went on that unbeaten run throughout the season. But I think back in Europe they've got some wise old heads there. I quite like the look of no goal scorer in this game.
Oh, 0-0, which is 8.2, or as we've said before, if you take the no goal scorer option instead of the 0-0, if there is a goal but it's an own goal, then you still get paid out if you back no goal scorer rather than the 0-0. That's the shrewd way of doing it. Sam, you're letting some tricks of the trade out of the bag there. Yes, it's fascinating that Celtic are here. I mean, when before the group stages, we would never have guessed that we were going to be previewing Celtic in the second round. And just fantastic achievement to qualify. Personally, I thought it would be a disadvantage that they didn't have any real competitive games at all in the Scottish League, with no Rangers there, obviously, this season. But it's worked in their favour. I mean, the performance of the campaign really was their away game at the Nou Camp. They ended up losing, but their fixture list there, they had St Mirren, Barcelona, Kilmarnock, which is
the big three.
The big three, as they're known. Yeah, they actually managed the worst result of the lot was at home to Kilmarnock, which they lost, which was a right old come down. But I mean, they've lost 4 and they've drawn 4 in the Scottish League, so that form isn't great.
But they only need to do enough.
But it must be very difficult, and it gives them as much preparation time as they need for these big games, because they can easily rest players the game before. They can afford to almost throw the games in the Scottish League beforehand, because they can have everyone absolutely ready. I
fancy Celtic to beat Juventus 1-0.
That would be a fantastic achievement. Celtic at 4.8, the draw at 10.2. What I think is interesting is that the big rivals Celtic had in their group stage were Benfica, really. They were playing for second place, really, against Benfica, realistically, and they actually only drew and lost against Benfica, but it was their other results, the win at home to Barcelona and that win in Moscow, which have carried them through. I'll be optimistic for Celtic in that I'll go for a 1-1 draw, which is 6.8. The 1-0 that you mentioned is priced at 9.6. But I think a very low-scoring game's in order, really. But I think Celtic could be good enough to get 1-1, which would be... I guess they'd take that and then just take their chances away in Turin.
OK, we're going to move on to Valencia versus PSG.
Prices here are Valencia 2.45, PSG are 3.1, and the draw's 3.3. That's the prices for the first leg.
They are still very reliant on Zlatan Ibrahimovic for results. He has blown hot and cold in the Champions League in the past, but along the way there have been exceptional performances, and it's quite funny that PSG don't have any real recent history in the Champions League, but they're the players that they have now.
Yeah.
They do, you know, not only Ibrahimovic, but Lavezzi, Thiago Silva, Thiago Motta, and Alex. So there's plenty of experience from there. They were very good in the group, albeit probably the easiest group of the lot that they came through there. But I don't know. What I find very interesting about this tie is you've got a club like PSG who are spending ridiculous amounts of money for fun, and then you've got the opposite of that. You've got Valencia, who year on year have to sell quality players just to get by.
But whether they've got enough to beat PSG?
Well, I think that very fact that you know, almost jealousy on and off the pitch at sort of what PSG are doing, I think that can often go a long way. And if they can turn that into an inspired performance, I think they can nick this first leg.
The similarity that really comes to mind is Manchester City, where you've got all these top quality players that have been thrown together, that have played on the big stage regularly, but when they're all in the melting pot together, City's 2 Champions League campaigns have been woeful. I'm prepared to take a chance on them for this fixture. I do respect Valencia's home record, but I really have in mind the shocker against Real Madrid that Valencia had recently. But I think PSG could do enough to nick an away win here. 2-1 to PSG, so 1-2 is priced at 10. And yeah, I'm prepared to take a chance on PSG here.
Oh, I'm going to go against you. I'm going to put my faith in the home win. Just seen some, you know, good nights of European football at Valencia over the seasons. So I think 2.45 to back the home win. Yeah, that's where I'm going to go here.
Yeah, should be an intriguing battle either way anyway.
So we're going to move on to Real Madrid versus Manchester United. But before I ask the guys what they think, we're going to find out what Mike Holden has to say about this game.
United would love to get the away goal, but it's not been a priority on the past few visits to Spain. And I think there might be some value in playing 0-0 and under 2.5 goals. I think United would prefer to get the game back to Old Trafford and try and play a 90 minutes that they've got to win at Old Trafford and try and get through that way. Madrid have obviously got their problems at the moment. It'll be interesting to see, because I don't think they can just necessarily pick up momentum. You know, they're way behind in the title race. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on them in this competition. And I just see the first leg being cagey, because I think once the first goal goes in, whoever it's for, the match is still in the balance at that point. I don't think anything's decided in the first leg, so I'd expect it to be a low-scoring game.
OK, so you've heard what Mike Holden has had to say. I think there is more pressure on Real Madrid than Manchester United for this first leg.
Real are strong favourites to win, or the favourites, 1.7, so well odds on there. Manchester United 5.3, which I'm sure will interest a lot of people, and the draw priced at 4. Those are the first leg prices.
I think when this draw was made, everyone just presumed it was curtains for Manchester United, but as the tie draws nearer, I think, you know, both me and you suddenly starting to think that the United do have chances.
It's all very well. It clearly seems to me that Mourinho's decided it's the Champions League at all costs this season, and it's all very well thinking that, but you still have to suddenly produce a performance in a game like this, having been hit and miss really in the last few weeks. But I mean, in terms of where Mike was looking there, and 0-0 is priced at 9, and that's a bet that I wouldn't put anyone off actually for this first leg.
No, I quite like that as a bet. For me, as we've said, Jose Mourinho is clearly putting all his eggs in his Champions League basket. I think this will be tight, as Mike says. I really like that. But I think Madrid just have enough to squeak by, and I like 1-0 as a scoreline.
And will you go so far as to say scorer? Will you go Cristiano Ronaldo?
I'm not going to back it, but you know, if you're going to look at a goal scorer, who else is there really at Real Madrid?
He has come out and said he will not celebrate.
Oh, I don't like that.
Well, that's very boring. I'm going to go with someone else now.
1-0 is priced at 6.8. I think we're all fairly united the forwards actually in terms of bets here. 1-0 to United. 1-0 to Real Madrid is 6.8. The under 2.5 goals is as big as 2.25, which means you're covering a whole range of scorelines as long as there are 2 or fewer goals
the other way
in the game. And 1-0 to United is 13.3, and that tempts me actually. As long as United defend their goal better than Paul Scholes defended his car recently, I'm sure they'll be fine. I'll say United to nick it 1-0. But I'd still fancy Real to get through. Actually, it could be one of those ties where.
Are we going to see Mourinho dancing down the Old Trafford touchline again?
What a fantastic moment that was! Yeah, that was where everyone. That's when he came to everyone's attention, of course. But yeah, it should be a.
Got that off Barry Fry.
Did he? Has he been studying the great man intently?
Who wouldn't?
I wonder if he can do the Gangnam Style dance now.
He'll no doubt have something lined up. Yeah. Should be an absolute cracking time.
Okay, and then Shakhtar Donetsk versus Borussia Dortmund. So 2 biggest surprises of the group stages.
This is the tie of the round.
This is the one I'm most looking forward to, actually. Shakhtar are 2.5 to win this game. Dortmund are 2.8 to win the game, and the draw's 3.5. The outright price is Dortmund at 8. And Shakhtar are 34.
They were so impressive, both of them, in their group stages.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that they've been tied against each other, and now one of them's going to go out. But Dortmund have really saved their best for the Champions League this season. But both teams like to play attractive football. I think this will be a really open, expansive game. Lots of chances, and I think lots of goals.
Shakhtar really interest me. I was so impressed with them in the group stages. I mean, they were,
apart from the final match against Juventus.
Yeah, I mean, they blew their lines a little bit in terms of topping the group, but you've really got to. I think you've got to take that game out of the form line. Juventus went there and had to win. I don't think Shakhtar's minds were on that game at all. It was the end of the domestic season as well.
I like Shakhtar to win this game.
You've got to remember about Shakhtar is their form at the Donbass Arena is in Europe is absolutely superb. But Dortmund haven't been phased at Madrid or Man City, so why not? Why not?
Well, one of the bets of the season, well, I thought at the time, it's easy in hindsight to say as well, Shakhtar were a similar price to win at home to Chelsea, and they absolutely wiped the floor with Chelsea. Chelsea were lucky to only lose 2-1. And part of that is the whole having to go all that way, go to Donetsk. You've been there, actually, haven't you? What can you tell? What will Dortmund have to see in?
Well, I couldn't tell you much about the city because the police kept me locked in my hotel room where I only had Monster Munch and an old Everton Bolton game to watch.
Because you'd celebrated Fulham's progression a bit too vigorously.
Yeah, well, possibly.
The thing that this tie hinges on to me is that the Ukrainian domestic season is basically on their break and they don't come back until the start of March. So what sort of quality opposition have Shakhtar found to keep themselves ready for this game? And that's my worry. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, and I think it will be.
It should be a great game. As I said, I think there'll be goals. I've got to pick a scoreline. I quite like 2-2.
2-2, which is priced at 11.8. Another way of playing it, if you think there'll be goals, is the over 2.5, which is 1.85. Personally, I think Shakhtar will have enough quality to win.
Yeah, me too.
2-0 tempts me at 11.2. As I say, there is this question mark because of the gap in the Ukrainian league. Yeah, I'm happy to take a chance that it'll work in their favour.
I think so. 1-0.
1-0, which is 8.2.
Right, so from any of the teams that we've discussed, who do we think is going to win? Or do we think any of the teams that we've discussed will win?
Well, yeah, I've just spoken about Borussia Dortmund there, and I really like them. And if they can get past this hurdle of a very tricky-looking Shakhtar Donetsk team, then I think they can go a long way in this competition. They had the toughest group they could have got, and yet they've topped the group against the English champions, the Spanish champions, and the Dutch champions. If they can stay clear of injuries, they don't really have a title challenge to sort of sidetrack them in the league. I expect them to go well.
Yeah, Dortmund are priced at 8. Personally, I'm a bit of a longer shot, but I think Shakhtar could, at the price that's big enough to tempt me into a fairly small bet. Shakhtar at 34. If they can get past this, they'll be back in full swing in the domestic season. This home record is phenomenal, and no team's going to fancy the trip to Donetsk. I'm happy to take a chance on Shakhtar at 34.
Okay, and what about Manchester United?
Is that your tip?
Yes.
Is that an informed decision, or is that just a biased decision?
Both, actually.
Okay, Manchester United are 15. They will be very popular. It's big price.
Okay, thanks for that, gents. Remember, for you to place your bets, head to our website. It's www.heavenbet.com. Follow us on Twitter at Best of the Bets, and do tweet us. And if you want to watch any of this show back, go to www.theplayerchannel.com/sports. Join us after the break when we look at more Champions League games, first legs after this.
HeavenBet.com, a new betting site from Poker Heaven.